Hi everyone, welcome to Talking Tech. I'm your host, Caroline Hill, looking at 2025 and 2026. And here I am with John Craske, who is Chief Innovation and Knowledge Officer at CMS. Hi, John.
Hi, Caroline.
Nice to see you.
You too?
It's been a long year, John.
It felt like the longest year. Really exciting too, but yeah, the longest year.
Well, thank you for helping me to look back at. So we're going to look back at 2025 and a little get our future, get our crystal ball out to have a look at 2026 as well. It's always super fun to do this at the end of the year and then perhaps come back the following year and have a look at what we said and how that tracks. So 2025, you've got two hats on. You've got CMS, and you've also got some of the work you've been doing with Litig around creating frameworks. So I think it's a really busy year for you on both fronts. Tell me, what are some of the key, perhaps with your CMS hat on first, if you like, what some of the key milestones have been this year?
Yeah, sure. I'll remember 2025 as the year that if all this stuff around legal tech and innovation turned from push into pull. And what I mean is, we've spent years and years trying to beat down the doors to get our lawyers to be using the tech, get it onto the radar, try and improve the way we're working, and constantly slog to improve the way we're doing things. And this year, it's something has switched on, and now it's more pull than I've ever seen before, which is great, but also brings its challenges, right? So now, of course, clients who are at the centre of everything for us and our lawyers, when they're working, are wanting to, how can we use tech to do this? How, in particular, driven by AI, of course. I had hoped I might avoid saying AI. Anyway,
John, how could we avoid it this year?
How could we avoid it? No, but catalyzed by that, definitely that we've seen a massive switch from, as I say, from push to pull from the business, which is exactly what we need, right? And so it's a brilliant problem to have, and I think I'll remember that for the year. And then we've done some big things, including with Harvey recently, that we discussed a couple of weeks ago. But that's all in response to this pull that we're seeing. So we wouldn't be doing that if there wasn't the demand and we didn't see the benefits and stuff. So, but it's bigger than that, and I think it's a change in the way people are thinking about it.
So interesting. Do you think it's because? So one of the things that I've talked about a lot this year is adoption, right? So have we transitioned this year from kind of headlines to meaningful adoption of some of the leading AI technologies? Do you think there's been a sea change? What do you think's driving the pull? Is it because people want to reinvent the way they work? Is it because they still see a little bit of what other people are doing? Is it because actually you're doing a good job? Obviously, you're doing a good job anyway, but of putting tools in their hands, and then they're saying, actually, we love this and we want to use it. Or what's driving it?
I think it's a whole range of factors. I think people have started encountering the AI in their daily lives as well, right, and starting to see the power of it. And it's something that we've not really seen before. It's not, there's lots of chat, and I'm sure we'll go on to talk about bits and pieces about next year, but about it being a new thing, and sort of asking the question about what does it replace. I can't remember who it is that says this, but I don't think it's as simple as that. I don't think it's a direct replacement. I think it's a new thing that and that we having to work out what this means to work with this technology. And I continuously bang on about being sort of human plus machine, which you might have heard me say before. But I think it's because this technology is accessible. It's easy to get started. The interfaces are okay, better than okay in some cases, but certainly a lot better than legal tech interfaces have been in the past. So I think lots of things have come together, and then the expectations from clients, and maybe lastly, generative AI. I know it can make videos and pictures and things, but where we started was with language, with text, with words. and that's what lawyers are expert at. So it's operating in an environment that, with the media that they understand and know, and maybe I say love. So I think it's very close to home as well. So I think we've seen that, because I just think that, well, certainly here it feels like there's been a lot of light bulb moments this year. But of course, adoption doesn't happen by accident. There's still a lot of planning, a lot of thinking, a lot of grassroots work to help people understand where best to use it. But there's so much more openness to receiving that than there maybe has been in the past. And it's that switch, as I say, from push to pull. I think that liable, well, however we describe it, that's the thing that's made the difference.
Interesting, which makes life so much easier, doesn't it, in terms of then moving on to adoption. And I know, so I've written stories this year about the steps that firms are taking, the way that they're looking to AI adoption, and some of the people changes that they're making, and perhaps creating sort of, whether you want to call it AI lawyer roles or whatever it might be, to try and really tap into those use cases, because lawyers are really busy people, and with all the will in the world, sometimes the day job gets in the way of doing things in a different way. And I know you've also been doing something along, maybe haven't talked about it particularly, but you've been doing stuff like that behind the scenes, is that right?
Yeah, so we've got some hybrid lawyers in the practice. We've also got some embedded legal technologists in teams. We've been talking about the roles that we might need in the future. Our legal tech team and our legal ops team are practice group aligned, and so I think it's there's different modes of adoption. There's the sort of central things you need to do, which often you then need to boil down to a team level, to especially when it comes to use cases, to explain. But then there's the other bit, which is looking at the work we're doing and transforming the way that we work in the way that other industries have had to go through a digital transformation. You only need to think about the banking industry and how we all use apps like now for our banks and the sort of open banking standards, or the travel industry and how we, only a few years ago we would all print our boarding passes off, wouldn't we, when we went to the airport? Now we all use our phones to do that, and the whole check-in and booking flights and things. So it's really changed, and I think that's starting to happen in the legal industry as well. So, but that means going down to what the work that you do and how you do it, and then transforming it, and that takes a village. That's not like somebody visiting on a Monday and by Friday they've transformed the way they work. So or on a Wednesday afternoon, so it's that takes a mix of the right resource of the people who know the tech really well, the people who know the processes and how the work is done and why it's done that way, and then other people around about it. So it's not, and I think that's where we're seeing firms, and we're certainly investing in thinking about that, because it's not just about that we bought a tool and then encouraging people to adopt a tool, because that's not what it's about, is it? It's not about the tools really, it's about the work that you do. So but it doesn't work by itself. You need to do both. You need to do that sort of central, coordinated push on adoption, talking meaningful use cases at the team level, and then also helping the teams think about the work they do and how that they transform that going forward.
Yeah, I've seen that really strong emphasis on people this year. So in all different senses, I think, because we've always said people, process, technology, even if it's lip service. This year, I think for me, I've seen a really strong focus on people, including well-being, actually, because it's been a big year for everybody, big year of change. There's a consciousness about, there's a lot being asked of people, including legal tech leaders, I think, hopefully. And look, this won't get delivered in a meaningful way unless we really put people at the very centre of it. Sometimes it sounds a bit cheesy, but unless you really do it for real, then I think actually all of your goals won't happen, or won't happen in the time frame that they need to.
It's so important. I mean, I think that the other thing that's at the centre of this for us is our clients. Right. So and they're people too, as well, of course. And keeping what they need at the centre. But you're right, very absolutely right. With this shift that I've talked about from push into pull, it creates so much more demand and pressure on the existing structures and teams and the legal tech teams. And I mean, as I said, it's a good problem because it creates that demand, but it's also managing that demand it can be a lot of pressure on people. So looking after our people, and making sure we've got ways of supporting them, both in terms of the work they do and how we prioritize things and where we go, but also on a human level as well. And that's absolutely right.
And I know the other really interesting thing, so you, with all the change that's happening, you've been leading the charge with under the LITIG umbrella, so the UK Legal IT Innovators Group, of trying to create doing an extensive benchmarking exercise and bringing some really talented people on board to help you to try and create effectively some standardization in the way that we benchmark AI tools. I know that's been a lot of work for you, but tell us about this year in terms of that. Do you think you've perhaps just briefly tell people a bit more better than I have, but also, do you think you've made some progress this year?
Sure. And yes, I think we made some real progress, but I think I started off maybe a year ago naively thinking, there's so much noise around generative AI and lots of it being hyperbole marketing because obviously, and it's always been thus, if you've got a product you think is good, you want to sell it. Yeah, so we saw lots of papers and articles and studies looking at accuracy of AI and then versus claims that we were seeing from vendors on accuracy of AI. And I think that was the catalyst for me that drove me over the edge. I'm like, it can't be both like 74% accurate and 95% accurate at the same time. And I thought rather naively that we could create something that was a benchmark like a miles per gallon or whatever it is in terms of accuracy for AI tools in legal. Turns out that's actually quite hard, and it's the more you dig into it, the more that's actually not a useful thing or not even possible. And besides, now we've also seen other vendors pop up to be able to do that sort of thing, and we saw studies from people like Val's, and there's others like that around on the market as well. So we pivoted a bit with the LITIG initiative to the point where we thought this all starts from a place of needing trust and transparency in what these tools do. Because if we all want to drive sort of sustainable adoption of AI across legal, then it has to be on the basis of trust. And so we need to, what things do we need to have in place to sort of be the foundations of that trust? And so what the work we've done is essentially to build up to a place where we've got what we've called an AI transparency charter, and then supported by a transparency statement, which is a template. And the charter is essentially behaviours that anybody who's offering an AI product in the legal market is encouraged to sign up to, and they're like promises to the market about how they'll behave and how the products will be tested and stuff like that. And then the transparency statement actually based on the idea of the model cards, which I think Google initially did, but it was a sort of description of what went into the model. But we kind of wanted to try and avoid what's happened on all the information security questionnaires, where we've all got our own style of questions. There's like 100 questions and they're all subtly different for every organization, which makes it hard for everybody to go through the process when you're thinking about InfoSec. Absolutely essential, but we made it perhaps harder than we could. And then after the fact, trying to agree some standards on that has been difficult. So we thought, let's see what we can do up front, and let's try and set some questions that we think help with this trust and transparency, and then push it at the start of this journey rather than wait for it to be out. So yes, we've got the charter, we've got the transparency statement, and then some stuff that helps articulate use cases. And we're just in the process of encouraging people who provide products to the market, AI products to the legal market, to sign up. And we've got some big names on there already, and some big names probably to come. So if anybody's watching this and wants to sign up, then just go to litig.org, and there's an AI menu button there, and you can find all that, find about it there.
That's awesome. Yeah, I would encourage people to do it, because so you're not asking. So along the journey, there's been all sorts of pivots because of people. Let's face it, not everyone wants to go into full disclosure about their own initiatives. There's all of that. Despite the fact that we're a very sharing industry, there's some competitive advantages, all sorts of factors, aren't there, at play. But I think your standard takes all of that into consideration. You're not asking anything other than just let's try and collectively drive for the benefit of everybody some standardization and transparency, so I would encourage everybody to go to Litig and have a look at that and take part.
That's exactly right, because it's about behaviors and building, and that would be good for everybody, as you say, Caroline. That's right.
And put your well, hopefully vendors will do it voluntarily, but obviously law firms have a place to play in encouraging that.
Well, and also law firms are going to be starting offering products into the market as well, so there's a place for law firms to do that too. But yes, I think we're trying on both sides, so we're encouraging vendors to do that, but also we're going to have some material for law firm procurement teams to be able to use as well. So if law firms start asking for this, then that's also going to push vendors to do it. So we're attacking that from both sides.
Okay, well done on that. And then so then future gazing, is there anything else from 2025, or should we get our future hat on?
No, let's do that. I think let's do the future.
It's almost too much, isn't there? So future gazing. So do you think, so I sometimes find these conversations, I'm like, it's fun, but do we ever know? But I think is there anything you feel like you can say with certainty that we'll see in 2026? That perhaps would be a change from this year?
I think that one of the things we're going to see is more people building more things, because I think it's a natural follow-on from the switch we've seen from the push to the pull, like I was describing. So I think we're going to see lawyer builders inside law firms much more than we've seen before. And I think that's going to be powered by the tools. Let me give you a few examples. I think so. We're a big Harvey shop, but there's equivalents in all the other tools. Allows you to now build workflows and playbooks and such like. So it's starting to build. It's not just using the tool to do our job. It's starting to build things in the tool. Look at Copilot Studio with Microsoft and agents and stuff. Lots of buzzy stuff around agents. But essentially, again, allows you to build things, and it makes things like Power Automate stuff much more accessible to people. So I think the sort of ability to be able to build things for your work is coming a lot closer to people. And that then is going to mean all sorts of things for the way that we do our work and the way that we support that. So that's one thing I think we're going to see in the coming year. I think the second thing I think we're going to see, which we've already started to see you might tell me, Caroline, that we've already done this, but I think we're going to see a real renaissance of knowledge management fundamentals. And that sounds pretty boring, perhaps, except for the knowledge lawyers or whatever watching me going, absolutely, it's not boring at all. But the need to have good, clean, curated sets of information to be able to use in these tools and workflows and playbooks and stuff is only going to put more pressure on doing that properly. And also, these things are new types of knowledge assets. So prompt banks and use case libraries and playbooks and workflows are a new type of knowledge asset in law, and we're knowledge businesses. And so those things will need to be maintained. So I think we're going to see the dial turned up on those things as well. And after years of thinking, enterprise search will just solve all of our knowledge needs, go back to, no, actually, we need some good knowledge management fundamentals, I think.
That's, yes, so many things to unpick. So there's so many interesting things coming through that. So yes, curated knowledge that came through at our 30th. Judy, the head of KM at BCRP, was saying about that curated knowledge, it's going to be absolutely key. At the same time, you've got companies saying, we're going to have semantic search, and this is going to be the answer, but I appreciate that actually that might make it more need than ever.
I mean, I think semantic search is a great thing, but you don't want semantic search to on top of everything, exactly. Underneath the things you're building. You want to carefully control the data that's referred to by these things that we're building. But so I think there's both. I think it's conflating them is wrong.
it's interesting because there's a lot of work being done from firms behind the scenes in terms of creating better metadata and actually, perhaps doing things, creating curated knowledge, but at a bigger scale. I think maybe that's quite interesting. There's AI technology that can help to do that now, I think, but there's obviously a lot of challenges. But so in terms of the build, it's interesting. So I'm seeing you're talking about building workflows. I'm seeing firms, we've always had this buy versus build debate. I'm seeing firms do increasingly for competitive advantage start to build systems, which I think is an interesting thing because there's always been challenges around that. That will be an interesting trend. That's not what you're talking about. You're talking about, you've obviously rolled out Harvey and you're talking about building workflows, but I wonder that probably doesn't present quite the same challenges as firms that are looking to build systems, and then it's a case of how does that get maintained. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but obviously just over the years we've seen challenges around that too. It's just really interesting, these trends that are coming through right now.
I mean, I'm sure that we're going to see more, let's call them products that are built by law firms, which are then made available to clients and whatever. We're definitely going to see more of that. But that's not quite what I was talking about. No, I'm talking about the ability for people to be able to, maybe build's the wrong word, but it's not about developing a product. It's about building little things that little helpers for you or your team, I think.
Do you think we're going to see a massive progress with agentic AI next year?
I mean, it's when you say progress, so I think the capabilities of the tools that are available will continue apace, and I think that it's already amazing what you can do in the tools. Yesterday I asked Gemini to create a Christmas quiz. I was expecting it to give me a list of questions and answers, but instead it built a little app with and asked me the questions, and I was like, that was just, I was like, a little mind-blowing moment there, right? Yeah. So yes, I think we're going to see a lot of progress. I mean, I'm careful using the word agent because it sounds, again, it's a little bit like magic wand, right? So, and that, a bit cautious about that. But are we going to see people building things which are enabled by AI and multi-step, and the AI starting to, direct the direction where it goes and how to do whatever step it is? Yes, we are. Is that, but we're not talking HAL or Terminator or anything yet, right? Not that, those sorts of agent. I'm going to come back to my sort of human plus machine analogy, because this is about working with rather than replacing, because the wheels are going to come off if we just think that we can create an agent and then just sit back and watch it, especially in our industry. I think we need helpers, not robots that replace us, I think.
I think there are still massive challenges around lack of integration. I think that's going to be a focus for people. Lack of integrated systems, which I think there's some really interesting developments this year around that with MCP, and there's firms obviously looking into that and what that means in terms of the challenges that firms have faced for a long time. That to have truly agentic AI, we'll have to perhaps go some way to resolving those first.
And we've got the other challenges in that space, like the cybersecurity challenges, of course. So nobody wants to expose themselves to a supply chain hack, as we've seen elsewhere, and so all that needs to be in the mix, and we need to be very careful.
100%. Thank you, John. So I think next year's going to be another busy year, so I hope you get some rest. And a pleasure talking to you, and hopefully you and I can speak again in a year and see how some of our crystal ball
see how wrong we were.
Isn't it fun?
Do you know All right, thanks so much. Thanks so much.
Thanks, John.